Okay, let us welcome all our second speaker of today, Dr. Amrendra Singh Yadav. I'm honored to introduce you about Dr. Amrendra Singh Yadav. He is an associate professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering at School of Engineering and Technology, Sharda University, Greater Noida. He received his doctorate from Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad, M.Tech from Madan Mohan Malviya University of Technology, Gorakhpur, and B.Tech Information Technology from State University, Uttar Pradesh. His research focuses on improving the scalability of blockchain systems, developing use case specific consensus algorithms, and the security of blockchains. His research interest includes blockchain technology, peer-to-peer systems, consensus algorithms, distributed ledger technology, and cloud computing. He has published more than 25 research articles in various SCI, ESCI, SCIE, and Scopus Index journals and conferences. Dr. Yadav has been an expert speaker in various faculty development programs and has organized a number of conferences, workshops, and short-term courses. Today he is going to talk about IPFS and blockchain application for land registration in India. Without taking much of your time, once again I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Vipul.
You can start the session.
Yes. And which are
So
being
there is a little sorry to disturb you. There is a little disturbance in your voice.
okay. So called blocks which are linked and secure using cryptography. So when talking about blockchain, so we commonly think of its application in the future. So blockchain will solve this. Blockchain will achieve that. It is easy to forget that blockchain are already deployed in the world. So pick up in any industry from the real estate, financial sectors, automobiles to artificial intelligence, healthcare system, and odds are the you can find the example of blockchain in actions in all the quarters and all circuits. So blockchain are making their mark. So even the U.S. Treasury and the act of adopting the more pilot projects and testing a program. So GDP of any country and World Economic Forum. So we have in the India of real estate GDP is around 10%. So will be stored in the blockchain in 2025 in the target of Indian government. So that means the global executives out there are preparing for these systematic shifts, and we are ready to completely back in implementation. So the impact of distributed ledger technology could be grand as the internet revolution itself. So the use case differ, but the benefit derived from using the technology remain unchanged. So the transparent and immutability and redundancy and the security is the main things of the aspects of the blockchain technology adopting in the any industry. So so here is showing the figure of centralized versus decentralized. So centralized means we have kind just like any kind we have entire data and store the data information, and one server we have exist all the data is stored in the centralization. So in the but decentralized content we can anybody nodes we can store the data and own replica of copy all other nodes in the decentralized of the system. So in the next we are traditional banking system. So what is traditional banking? So is in person of banking at an established financial institution. So such as just like example of State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, ICCI, HDFC, and etc. bankers. So these banks have a physical presence. So they are made up of local branches in area they operate along the regional and national headquarters location. So most people use these banks to manage their personal accounts, including checking, and money, savings, retirement funds, provident fund, and another things of money. We have stored the blockchain. So and many more. So beyond the personal accounts, so many people also use them for their businesses operations due to variety of capability. So these banks offer. So you can see that we have only show the traditional banking system. So you have one bank is a state bank, and another is also a state bank, Bank of Baroda, ICC, bank, different bank use. So there are some number of users in this bank. So in the international wire transfer, that means here sender just like bank SBI send the money of a person to the another bank. So we have correspondence bank we have involved in the middle of the transfer of the money, but in the blockchain we have no middleman we involved in the transferring of the money. So we have involving of the correspondence bank. So we have costly and slow because we have one bank transfer the money to the another bank. So here we have correspondence bank is also we have involved in the some process. So it's a slow bank, and we have also we have some extra charge is aware. So another receiver bank is waiting for the money of just like we have the NFTs. So we have transferred the money from after 30 hours, 30 minutes. So in these types of banking, we have slowly working in the current time environment. So the concept of Bitcoin in the using of the current economic system. So we have send the bank of another receiver bank. So we have directly to the network connected to the peer-to-peer network. So send the money from one person to another person. So corresponding bank is eliminated. So we have fast settlement of the money from user one to user B. So no involvement of the another bank and no administrative involved in the sending the money from one person to the another person. So in the things here, in the current banking system, so we have account opening the account and identity management. So we have link personal information to the bank account and verify the ownership, just like Aadhaar card, PAN card, voter ID, passport. So in the they are also provide the services transfer and redeems the money in the banking system. And also here third is a record management. So updated and track account balances in the current banking system. And trust to provide the services by the professional under the regulation of the government in the current existing banking system. But involving in the Bitcoin, so the link of personal information to the bank account verify is not need to be in the Bitcoin system. So automatically created identities which are given to the user own identity he will created unique identity and transfer and redeem money. So send the funds between the peers directly. No authorities we are involved in the sending the money from one person to the another person. So record maintenance, update and track account balance by the users. But here the update every nodes which keeps its own ledger. So using of the consensus algorithm. So just like many consensus algorithm, proof of work, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, draft, and Byzantine problem and IoT, lots of consensus algorithm we have using all the transferring the money to the one person to another person, one ledger to another person. But Bitcoin, we have use of the proof of work consensus algorithm. And the trust is a, in the banking system, we have regulation of government in the regularity of administration power. So one person hold the all the authorities. But in the Bitcoin, mainly no another person can involve in the transferring the money. So we have provided the trusted protocol using of the consensus algorithm. So here is a what is a Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin network is a peer-to-peer payment network that operates on a cryptographic protocols. So user send and receive Bitcoins, the units of currency by broadcasting digitally signed message to the network using cryptocurrency wallet and software. So this is a distributed decentralized digital currency, no central administrative control by ad hoc, but in the current existing banking system, we have central power, we have authority of regulation of the Indian government, and digital checks and distributed transaction logs. So transactions are recorded into the distributed, so replicated public database known as the blockchain in the Bitcoin network. So which consensus achieved in the Bitcoin. So the proof of work system in the achieve the consensus in the Bitcoin network and also called as a mining. So proof of work and the Bitcoin is launched the Santoshi Nakamoto is an anonymous name. So the designer of the Bitcoin and they claim the design and coding of Bitcoin began in 2007. So the project was released in 2009 as open source software. Here is a block. So a blockchain is made up of a series of blocks. So each of which is linked to the one before. It is creating the skeleton for the entire blockchain. So it is a collection of verified and recent transaction. Just like we have consensus is achieved in the any transaction, then the voting is achieved, then the collection of amount of transaction is stored in the block. So each block has three components: is a hash of previous block, and data and proof of work is a consensus. In the first block is always is a genesis block. So what is a previous hash? That means is a one block, two, and n number of blocks. So a block of data structure that contain a collection of transactions before submitting them to the blockchain for the verification. So here the example of the Bitcoin network. So here a block one. So the nonce value is 1131, and here is some data, and previous has a zero because here uh, first block is a genesis block. So here is hash is a zero, and then block is executed and successfully verified. Then the data is added in the blockchain. So we have generated the hash. So in the next block we have use of the previous of hash. In this block, this hash is stored in the block number two, and then also and so on. Block number three is stored the hash of block number two with a simple network of the blockchain. So in the key features of the Bitcoin: immutability, decentralization, consensus, transparency, trust, reduce transaction cost. So it is a place where information is stored and encrypted in the blockchain. So it includes encrypted transaction information from the previous block and a new transaction information. So every new block created contain a reference to its parent block, and they create the chain. So in the previous graph, we have show that the chain of the blockchain. So the data within a block, the data in the block must be verified by the network before new block can be created in the blockchain. So the complete block is a permanent record of prior transaction and new ones. So the first block with a no previous hash, so it is called as a genesis block. So the consensus mechanism, just like proof of work, is responsible to verify a transaction and adding a new block to the network. We have using of the redirection mechanism problem. So yeah, hashing is the concept of the blockchain technology. So blockchain block has a hash in itself. So it can accept as a unique fingerprint for each block. So this helps identify block and its content, which is always unique as a fingerprint. So as the block is created and changed inside the block will causes the hash to change. So therefore the hash play a significant role for you to detect the change of intersection. If your blockchain fingerprint change, so it no longer see the same block. So the real example, all our faculties and students we have enter in the college, we have show in the fingerprint machine, we have attendance through the fingerprint, and so say all are unique fingerprint. So we have anyone can change the finger. So we have hashes change. So no can be verify the hash. So we no can get the attendance in the fingerprint machine. So it can be said that each block has, so in the block data hash and hash of the previous block including the one blocks. So unique hash property is also the hash algorithm used in blockchain has specific unique properties. So these properties, just like we have using of the one-way function of hash and deterministic and avalanche effect and collision free. So we have a document, we have retrieved the using of hash key value in the current existing system. So the technology is designed to produce a unique output or hash for every transaction. So the hash used in the blockchain are one-way hash, so function that cannot be reversed and altered. So the blockchain use the cryptography hash function, and its property is a consensus mechanism. So the cryptography has act as a digest and a digital fingerprint for a defined and definity of the identity of the quantity of the data. So in the blockchain's cryptography hash function, the hash transaction is accepted as an input and spent through the hashing algorithm and give the output of the fixed length of data size. But the input data size is, can be variable. So in this figure, we have shown that immutable ledger. So here is the first block is always is called as a genesis block. So here data and previous has zero and the hash successfully the transaction executed. So the hash is generated and this hash is stored in the next block and connected to the previous of the block. So this is example of block cryptography linked to the in the blockchain and another applications. In this example, we have shown that immutable of ledger. So we have any person, we can have bag of money, and we have purchased the house, and we have registration office. We have go to the deed of registration, and then registration is completed. The government office we also show and retrieve the PDF file and given to the buyer office. But in the traditional ledger, we have houses, so we have any attacker can be attacked. Just like one person can be modified of the data in the current transaction management system because here randomly we have used in the by written in the ledger form, but involved in the blockchain. So we have no one can be edit or delete and modify the data because we have any of data we have changed in the existing block. So we have using of algorithm. So no anybody can change the data in the blockchain. So without the consensus algorithm. So we have just like in the 5 nodes in the network. So one node is a hack by the hacker. So we have all other 4 node is a verify to the which node is a hack. We using of the any algorithm just like Byzantine fault tolerance. We have using of the commander and lieutenant services. So in the Byzantine general problem, each division of Byzantine army are directed by its own general, and generals some of which are territorial and communicate to each other. So I by the messenger. So all general we have decided upon the example we have shown that commander and lieutenant 1 and 2 and 3. So here commander send the V message to all the lieutenant and all lieutenant we have received the same message of V from through the forward by the commander. And lieutenant 1 received the V message and send the V message to lieutenant 2 and lieutenant 2 also received the X message to the lieutenant 3 and V message to the commander and lieutenant 3 also received the V message to the commander. So here lieutenant 2 achieved the voting of consensus is more than 51%. So we have here, we have find because we have V message to the commander and V message lieutenant 1. So we have find the lieutenant 3 is a territorial message. So guys, is a message is X. So lieutenant 3 is a territorial, lieutenant 2 is a point of view. So in this we have also we have using of the analysis of algorithm, we have find of the Byzantine fault tolerance algorithm. So just like generally we can define a consensus algorithm by 3 steps. First we have elect, vote and decide. Elect means all the node elect a single process term as a leader to the make decision. In the previous algorithm, we have a leader a term as a commander. So the leader proposes the next valid output value. And based on the voting, is a second step is a vote. So the non-faulty process listen to the value being processed by the leader and validated. So the process it as the next valid value. So next is a decide. So in the non-faulty process in the previous figure, non-faulty process is a left in 1, 2 and 3. So the non-faulty process must come to the consensus on a single correct output value. So the single correct output value is a V. So if the leader receives the threshold number of identical votes from an output value that satisfied certain criteria, then the process will decide on that value. So otherwise, the steps start all over again in the same as step elect, vote, and decide. So the basic example of consensus algorithm, we have the term of the example of Byzantine fault tolerance mechanism. So here the Bitcoin autonomy. So here the Bob and Robert, we have purchase of any property and any other of transferring of money one person to another person. So we have transaction from the Bob to Robert. So here we add the transaction to the block, and the blockchain we have broadcast the block to the all the network. In all the network, just like I had to 10 to 5 node and 1,000 nodes in the network. So we have all are starting to the mining. We have using of the proof of work processing. So miner n solve the problem is n number of miner we have executing the solving the problem in the blockchain technology. We have only mining problem we use only proof of work consensus algorithm. So in this we have a figure we have shown that number of miner 1, 2, and 3 and n we have solved the mining of hashing problem. So other miner then the just like in the example 2, miner 2 is solve the consensus hashing problem and find the nonce value of the current given the hash. So other miner then the miner 2 broadcast the hash value to all the net miners, and all other miners we have check and verify and validate the provide result of miner 2 is valid or not. So if the all our nodes we have received leader node is received the all other miner is miner 2 is solved the nonce value is right, and they receive the voting of the 51% of the all other miners in the leader. Then the block is validated. Then the block is validated. So blockchain network nodes validate the block. So here, just like this is a leader, and leader received the all other miner nodes the voting from the basis of the finding of the nonce in the proof of work algorithm. So the voting is achieved. So adding new block to the chain. Otherwise, block is discarded. So there are some use cases of the blockchain: medical, banking, land related issues, supply chain management, agriculture, and voting. So in this, I have using of the land related issues. So digitization of land record through the blockchain based consensus algorithm. So in the real estate, just like we have. Yes. Okay. So it is visible. Huh?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes, sir.
So in the real estate, it is hard to identify a sector that has not been impacted by blockchain. So given the technology description of the financial services and subsequent deployment across the industry, so from the payments to the stocks to venture capital firm to the food supply chain business, blockchain is everywhere in the market. So the real estate sector is also touched by it. So a blockchain technology can provide for property or land title management through immutable records and auditable transaction history for land registration and transfer. So the technology can also be leveraged to provide the efficiency in property management through use of smart contract. So currently there are a few regulatory and custodial challenges in implementing real estate tokenization of the blockchain. So if and when implemented, it can vastly streamline and speed up the process of purchasing, enjoying the dividends of the financial benefits of owning of the real estate assets. So across the world of fractional units, so blockchain technology and a distributed ledger and technology can offer security and privacy to the participant in the blockchain. So first, just like introduction of the using of the technology in the land registry management. So in this modern area is the edge cutting technology. Edge cutting means the latest or most advanced tool in the development, just like e-commerce industry, administrator, government, health, and finance education sector. So in modern era, edge cutting technology refer to technological devices, techniques, or achievements that employ the most current and high level IT developments. So we are using cutting technology in various areas such as commerce, administration, education, finance. So the before of digitization of started became the norms all around the world. Storage and processing of documents was not only expensive but also tedious and fragile. So as it comprised of various static procedure, so which were earlier done manually and later authorized at every level in the current existing system of land registration management. So the data entry as well as authorization process also prone to human error or typological mistakes. So such as inaccurate data, fake forgery records, verification and search issues due to physical documents, and redundancy of data, so damage of records due to natural disaster. So the currently financial service sector is adopting edge cutting technology. It's called a blockchain technology. So these financial institutions will need to operate at a lower cost, high volume payment lines to service their businesses while catering to increasing demand for security and the mobility. So the digital document, just like we have using of the ID proof, address proof, property registry, document, e-check, and vulnerable to alteration of the tampering of even ownership of the document can be checked. So the one such groundbreaking technology is a blockchain, the leading cryptocurrency by market and the most widely known implementation of the blockchain. So Bitcoin has operated without any central authority since 2009. So the concept of Bitcoin has been researched by the financial industries and researcher as distributed ledger technology. So distributed ledger technology uh, has gathered momentum in recent years and provide transparent record keeping together with transaction verifiability. So DLT offers several benefits in the term of efficiency, security, resiliency, and ledger consistency. So distributed ledger is a decentralized digital for storing transaction or any information consistently and securely. So any change of data stored on the ledger are reflected simultaneously to all the participant node in of the ledger. DLT and blockchain are main backbone technology of the Bitcoin. So the speed and cost of doing business using a DLT are expected to improve by simplifying back office operation and lowering human intervention. So in this figure, we have shown that all participants share a consistent copy of data and there is no central server. So some there are some participant here and here might be not have a complete copy of the ledger. So just like here, some of the complete copy of the not of the ledger. So network connection are between peer-to-peer nodes. There are connection between peer-to-peer nodes, and participant must comply the ledger rules. So just like ledger rules means there are two types of ledger rules. First is a permissionless ledger and permission ledger. So permissionless ledgers anyone can join in the network, and permission ledger means participant is subjected to the rules. We have just like on of company, organization, even one whole just government. So we have depend on the ledger rules. So using a consensus protocol. So here we have a consensus protocol to agree on the validity of a given transaction. So transaction could be financial or exchange of asset and services. So we have depend on the rule of transaction could be coded into what is called a smart contract and uses of digital signature just like private public key to sign and encrypt the transaction to the ledger, and signature could be linked to the identity and also represent a temporal order of how asset evolve over the time. We have using of the distributed ledger technology. So here by DLT we have use of the blockchain and ledger technology. So DLT provide potential benefits just like transparency, avoiding fraud, reducing corruption, immutability, data integrity, access to information, and reliability, and asset availability, and decreasing the need for reconciliation of reducing operational and financial risk. So the emergence of DLT with solid support for data integrity and authenticity has opened up the door of opportunity in the different domains like supply chain, healthcare, education, finance, transport, and governance. The most distinct feature of DLT that make it different from other traditional database. So it is a distributed nature. So any information to the ledger is added by means of consensus without any third party inversion. So even though the DLT and blockchain share the same conceptual origin with their meaning overlapping each other, both these terms are not identical. DLT or blockchain are differentiated by their own distinguished set of features. DLT is an umbrella term that can be thought of the first step toward the blockchain. So it is shared ledger system and encompasses the blockchain and other type of distributed ledger. So blockchain. So blockchain is a collection of blocks that are linked to a chain. It is called a blockchain and shared using cryptography. So each block contain an ordered set of transactions. A blockchain is a essential a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computer system on the blockchain. So each block in the chain contain number of transactions, and every time a new transaction occur on the blockchain, so a record of the transaction is added every participant in the ledger. So here figure explain the basic sequence of blockchain in the blockchain. So in a blockchain, the block are connected through the hashes, and each block pointing to its previous block all the way to the first block ever created. The first block are known as a genesis block. In this figure, we have first block, it shows the genesis block. Anytime any changes in the data are immediately noticed by each preceding block. So this is concept of hashing play a role in a blockchain. So address on the blockchain are derived from the hashing of the block. Hashing help in defining cryptographic signature that help determine valid transaction. So the hash of transaction make it easy to keep track of transition to the blockchain. There are number of list of blockchain is 20 block in the blockchain. So we track the block of data from the number of block one. So we have tracking of the previous hash, previous block three, block two, and block one. We have getting the exact originate of the data of block. So we're using of the backtracking of the blockchain. So here the block structure in the blockchain. So here represent the sample block structure of blockchain. So block header, here we have shown that the block header. A block header contain the following information, just like block version, Merkle tree, timestamps, n-bit, nonce, previous data. So block version means that specify what kind of block validation rule to have used, public, private, and here we have use of the Merkle tree root hash. So in the it is hash of all transaction included in the block. If any section is modified, so the Merkle hash get changed and the entire blockchain become useless. So main important is term of the Merkle tree in the blockchain. And the timestamps, it is displayed in the current time in universal time is second, just like here is a July of 26, 2022. And n bits means they are in this field we have target of the threshold of the valid block has 40 nonce 8 6. So the target of value that correspondent to the level of difficulty, and the target value is marked as a bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, 8 bits. So nonce, here nonce, a 4-byte field that typically begin with 0 and increase with each hash calculation. So it is only variable field inside the block header. So nonce is only variable in the block header. So the purpose of the adding of nonce in the block header is to find the valid hash for a block by iterating the nonce. So here miner find the nonce value in the block hashing value of hash in the blockchain. So when a miner construct a block, it needs to find the nonce for the block header that has enough zeros in the beginning to the match of the difficulty required by the puzzle, the computational puzzle problem in the proof of work algorithm. And here with the previous block hash, so it is a 256-bit hash value that refer to the chain's previous block. Each block in the blockchain include a previous block as a part of its block header. In the previous figure, we also show that the chaining of the blockchain. There are key characteristics of the blockchain: immutability, decentralization, consensus, distributed data, reliability, transparency, trust, and reduction cost. So the recording rights of data through the blockchain will help in the annual cost saving and provide a tamper-proof ledger with the this such of things of benefits. Just like first is the immutability. So blockchain technology ensures that once a data is created, it cannot be modified under any condition. All the data is distributed in a secure public ledger. No one can be modified in the using of any consensus algorithm. So decentralization, distributed ledger is a decentralization digital ledger for storing transaction of any information consistently and securely. Consensus means a consensus is a dynamic way of reaching to an single data value among all the distributed nodes. Just like thousands of nodes in the network, but decision is a value of the single votes and sorry, single data. And distributed data controls means any change of data is stored on the ledger are reflected simultaneously to all the participant nodes in the ledger. And reliability, any relevant change in record is possible only if there is no consensus process. So which is not true in the term of blockchain technology. So trust, blockchain based data applications shall ensure that people will start using it with the more social inclusions and reduce transaction costs. The last, blockchain technology given an opportunity to market participant to directly access decentralized asset and store the information. So we have removed the mediator of the any such of things. We have using of the any property change in a money of changing one person to another. There are types of blockchain. There are two types of blockchain are taken, namely public blockchains and private blockchain. Public blockchain means public blockchain, also known as unpermission or permissionless blockchain. Allow anyone can to participate to blockchain to create and to validate the block. The example of the Bitcoin network. And private blockchain, a private blockchain also known as a permission blockchain, always only authorized and trusted entity to participate in the activities within the network. There are some differences we have shown in the table. Property centralized, public blockchain is no, private is centralized, yes, because they are one organization. Permission to read public and could be public or private, it defined other ledger rules. Mutability almost impossible to tamper, but is a possible because they are centralized. In consensus, all minor, only one organization. Efficiency, low and superior, and process permissionless and permissions. They are properties of the public and private blockchains. So here we have in this slide we have shown that some leading technology platform are like Ethereum, Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Suite, interpretive file system. Discuss in this architecture. So thus, there are more author we have shown that and research by the using Ethereum, Hyperledger, Suite, and IPFS. So Vitalik Buterin is the inventor of the Ethereum in 2013, and IBM is 2015 launched the Hyperledger Fabric, and then 2018 we have launched the Hyperledger Suite. Ethereum we have use of the smart contract in Solidity language, and Hyperledger we have use of the chain code and in the Go languages. In the smart contract is the term of the hyperledger we have called is a chain code. And here we have own consensus is not we have involved in the hyperledger fabric. We have only use of the existing consensus algorithm we have provided by the IBM network. And but in the IPFS, we have using of the own consensus algorithm and existing algorithm. We have compared to the work to the our work and any types of work. So Ethereum is an open source, globally decentralized computing infrastructure that execute program is called a smart contract. So a smart contract are simply program stored on a blockchain that run when predetermined predetermined conditions are met, otherwise not run. Ethereum provide a blockchain to synchronize and store the system state along with the cryptocurrency called Ether to pay the execution cost to the miner in the term of gas. Ethereum we have used using of the Ether gas to execute of any transaction to verify and validate. So gas is a unit that measure the amount of computational effort that it will take to execute certain operation. Some example we have just like we have one money sent to the 10 rupees sent A person to the B person. So we have transaction is computational power is pay for the gas. So just like we have, I have paid the two ether, like two ether. Gas is called as the ether, two ether. But is computational power is high. Network is main congestion, and computational power is high. So we have required three ether. So if we I have only paid two ether. So the transaction is not completed and transaction is discarded. Yeah, in this phase of the Ethereum. So every single operation that part in Ethereum, be it a transaction or a smart contract, execution requires some amount of gas, is called a ether. The next is a hyperledger fabric. So hyperledger fabric is the first major private DLT system originated from the hyperledger ecosystem. Is a private based system, is a organization based system. So it is being designed with strong privacy to mind to ensure that different governmental agencies and business organizations can take advantages of DLT system in the different use cases. So in this hyperledger, the crucial quality of fabric is that it can maintain the multiple ledgers within its ecosystem. So it is useful feature which separate fabric from other DLT system consisting of only one ledger in each of their domains. So the currently fiber support of Solo and Kafka consensus algorithm. So and a simplified Byzantine fault tolerance algorithm to be released soon, but currently not released, only using of the Solo and Kafka consensus in the Hyperledger fabric. So Hyperledger fabric is not a decentralized network. So most of the time, either single organization control its or group with shared responsibility. So it is called a private network. And next is a Hyperledger's Sutooth. So it is initially also developed by the Intel. So is a software framework for creating a distributed ledger suitable for variety of use cases. So to utilize the novel consensus algorithm, we have used of the proof of elapsed time. So it's a depend on the Intel SGX. SGX is a software guard extension. So the Intel SGS is a tested environment execution environment integrated into Intel new generation process. So it depend on the performance of the Intel processors. So we have integrated in the new generation of systems. So SGX enabled the execution of code within a secure enclave inside the processor, whose validity can be verified using the remote attention process supported by the SGX. The major drawback of this Sutooth platform of this protocol, it is a dependency on trusted execution environment is a TEA. So the dependency is not is a good feature of the in blockchain technology. So next is the last the interplanetary file system is called is the IPFS. So IPFS is a decentralized file storage system that enable the storage, access, and security of files over a distributed file system. So cryptographically has is created for every file. So the file are stored in the node. So whose indexing in done such that each file can be accessed through the node using of the hash. So there are certain advantages we have using of the IPFS in a comparison of all other available platforms just like Ethereum, Fabric, Satoot. So IPFS is a follow a peer-to-peer architecture that provide a decentralized way for storage and retrieval of files. So it is a distributed version file system that allow different kind of application to be built on top it. So using IPFS with the blockchain, we only need to store the hash of the IPFS file on the blockchain. So while allowing the user of exploit the file storage and peer-to-peer property of the IPFS system. It also provides data distribution, security protocols, a routing system, find the peer address of the other peers, means nodes, say, and all other functionalities that a blockchain application require. So IPFS is an open source platform. It is not required to pay a royalty for a transaction confirmation. But is a Ethereum, we have paid the royalty of transaction confirmation in the term of Ether gas. And here is a private and is a dependent on textured execution. But IPFS is not depend on any software, and you have can both privately and publicly we have used. So blockchain and property registration application, I have developed my own trust consensus algorithm using of the IPFS file interpretatory file system. So blockchain and property registration application. So the largest e-governance application that can benefit from this technology is property record management. So this will provide a flip up of the construction industry that generate employment for about 10% of population in the unorganized sector. So in this field of real estate, most of the transactions are related to the transfer of ownership of any property or apartment. So this process of ownership transfer of any property is called a property registry. So this process requires several steps like payment of stamp duty, transfer deed, and sale agreement. So the property transaction record are maintained in a centralized manner at the state level. So the property registration process is plugged in with various issues such as multiple registry on the same piece of property, issues in verification, searching due to physical documentation, deviation in the name, address, location of owner of property due to human error or topological error. So TDS, as it may also involve number of brokers or middlemen in the current property management system and expensive paperwork and excessive paperwork. So here the we have in the NCR we have searching for any rental home. So we have involved in the middleman and broker. So these types of issues we have avoid using of the blockchain technology and directly connect to the peer-to-peer network. So all these type of issues are overcome using of the blockchain. So the consumer to have a greater confidence in a blockchain for safe land transaction and build digital trust. So the blockchain-based system allow quick decision making through transparency of the integration. So we have using of the blockchain. So we all this type of network we have resolved. So the access of record in on demand is the first feature of the using of land registry in the blockchain. And block are a collection of secure transaction, block from a chain within link using cryptography hash, have an unique digital signature, record free from duplicity, corruption, and immutability. Record are decentralized and regulated without human and chronological set of record could not be updated. So these types of records we have updated and blockchain we have approved in the land registry mechanism system. So we have need from the consensus. Any application we have just like health record, supply chain management, to approve of this stuff, transaction, we have need of the consensus. So consensus mechanism is a fault tolerance mechanism that is used in a computer and a blockchain nodes to achieve the necessary agreement on a single data value or a single state of the nodes among the distributed ledger. So the consensus algorithm determines which state of the blockchain is chosen to valid and true. It is only when consensus is achieved that the new transaction is recorded into the block and the link to the already existing chain of block using a hash pointer to the previous block. In short, it can be said that consensus is mainly achieving to achieve an agreement on a single value. So if at least 51% of the nodes reach a consensus that the solution found by the node is valid, then the solution is treated as a valid solution. So to add a new block in the blockchain, there are various consensus algorithms: proof of work, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, Byzantine fault tolerance, practical Byzantine fault, etc. So the consistency of consensus mechanism already discussed. So there is a type of consensus mechanism. So there are some leading consensus are like discussed in this structure. So proof of work, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, proof of elapsed time, proof of retrievability, practical Byzantine fault tolerance, and tangle. There are some another also is a consensus algorithm. So proof of work is a first is a proof-based consensus algorithm. So rewarded for creating a new block and adding these to the chain. So miner must solve a cryptographic puzzle to add a block to the blockchain. In this case, the miner are paid incentive when the puzzle is solved and therefore make use of high end computational expensive devices to be the first to solve the puzzles. So more number of computational power we have any users, so more number of solve the miner and getting the incentive to the leader. And the next is a POS, proof of stake, is a consensus algorithm that make work on the idea that node who wish to participate in the consensus process must invest some stake in the network. So this stake act as a guarantee that the node will not causes any harm to the system. So recently discovered limitation of these proof of stake algorithm is just like example of democracy since different stakeholder. So vote for the block leader who will validate transaction on the behalf of other nodes. In the current Indian government, just like some MLA and MLC and MP, we have voting from the selecting of the chief minister and prime minister. We have the process of the stake proof of stake. So next is a delegated proof of stake. So in a delegated proof of stake is an elective consensus procedure where each node with a stake in the network can elect the leader by the process of voting for the transition validation. The real example, recently we have elected from the president of India. So inside the blockchain, it is also referred to the democracy since different stakeholders vote for the block leader who will validate the transaction on the behalf of the other nodes. So it is a DPoS and BFT. We have referred the reaching the consensus between two or more number of nodes. We also discussed in the earlier in the slides. And the proof of elapsed time is a form of proof of work consensus algorithm, where proof of work is replaced by the wait time, and the node is to assume role of leader, what is randomly generated by the trusted execution environment. And then the proof of retrievability was originally proposed by the Jules and Kelsey in 2007 as a semi-trusted distributed achieving system. So the core of feature of POAR is to allow a file owner to check if its online file or file fragment are securely stored and retrieval through the challenge response protocol we have using of the POAR. And Tangle is considered to an evaluation of the blockchain belonging to the DLT. The Tangle is a blockless blockchain. It's based on a directed acyclic graph, a finite directed graph with no directed cycle. So we have we have more research we have using of the blockless blockchain based on it's called directed acyclic graph. We have the researcher we have find some basics problem and solve the issues of the blockchain. We're using of the Tangle algorithm. So we had the comparison of the proof of and the consensus algorithm, just like here computational power is low, is a fault tolerance, consumption high, scalability, proof of stake amount 51%, There's some feature we have the comparison of existing consensus algorithm. So we have using of consensus. We have data consensus achieved and data is associated and stored in the blockchain. So the main problem of the just like thousands and lakhs of records is stored in the blockchain. So we have main problem of the searching because the current existing land registration also number of files we have stored in the one room. So we are searching of record is a more difficult. So we in this time of blockchain is also difficult because 10,000 of nodes. So we have one file is stored in a 90th node. So your searching time is more required. So next problem we have reduced the searching time and retrieval transition storage data is fast. So blockchain technology in the property registry solve many existing issues since decentralized control and storage of record blockchain can increase the confidence of collaborative framework. So in blockchain, the size of block is limited for ensuring the efficacy. So the size of the registration document increase so when record passes through the various departments like property record, survey record, bank, and registration department. So the for the example, where both buyer and seller agree to the transaction, service or process have to be carried out. So the buyer need to get the authorized vendor signature, stamp paper, payment has to be made by cash and checks using of accounts. So property document need to be submitted, which can be using of image, video, PDF, etc. So sometimes of data we have losses. So we have and searching records high time. So also retrieve the data is firstly we have using our blockchain, we have using our sidechain algorithms and sidechain concept we in the blockchain technology. So blockchain based e-registry framework. So the largest e-governance application in India that can benefit from the technology is a property record management. In the field of real estate, most of transactions related to the transfer of ownership also already discussed. So here we have proposed the network architecture of the e-registry framework. So to find a robust DLT-based solution for e-registry application for decentralized ledger that includes this is a robust DLT-based solution include various components. So blockchain-based property transaction mechanism, stamp procurement system, and stamp duty payment process, property and ownership verification, and record keeping of ownership. So in this figure, we have shown that the existing land registration process include various activities such as stamp paper, calculation of land, registry fees, record keeping. So these activities are carried out in authorized registration of a region. So here we have shown that the region 1, 2, 3, and n number of region. All are connected to the cloud center of peer-to-peer SON network. So here the registry offices A, B, C, and D. So here B1 to N is a blockchain, and RO means a restore office, and SRO is a sub restore office, and here ROM is a registry office miner, and APM is an authorized professional miner to fast processing of solving the puzzles and solving verify the data. IPFS is the interpretive file system, and here GLOR is government land registry officer. They are all are government land registry offices. So the government land registry offices verify the land transaction is multi-level by both registrar and sub-registrar level here, star and sub-registrar officer. So the first sub-registrar offices here verify all documents and submitted including land map plan, proof, identification and witness ID. Once the paper has been checked through the here sub-registrar offices, so forwarded it to the registrar offices. Then the registrar authenticates the document and check its formal specifications such as specifying the parties witnesses signature and deed format. So after registrar offices and registrar verify the land and buyer seller witnesses, so registrar office issue the buyer registered deed. So then after the register office miner are participated in the government land of registry offices. Their main term of main power and main entity is the ROM and APM. So here we have APM nodes perform the essential function which include mining and transaction validation. Authorized professional miner enable registry officers to be more in scale because APM miner employs substantial computational resources. The third party we have solved and the first verifying the document because our Rusty officer's miner is an overhead cost. So is the original miner is controlled by the government. So in which already overburdened the deed registration and other routine operation. So we have involved in the authorized professional miner for solving the fast processing of the register management. So here the government will monitor the blockchain network, mining policies and consensus process in this way. So with the government will eventually have complete control over the all the document in the blockchain. So here the just like region 1, 2, 3 means the generation of the e-registry document is the main responsibility of the regional office in the regions, just like NCI, Gautam Budh Nagar, Lucknow, Allahabad, Banaras, Gorakhpur. So the region comprises of various registry offices and node connected to the web server. Here is a web server. So once a region corresponding to the state of the union territory, so the registry offices has various registry offices miner and authorized professional miners and mining the transaction of block. So here the web server is attached to the region to the store and regional database of land record, and the web server is specified to a region that a server as an information repository of the various registry offices corresponding to a region district. And here APM also discussed and registry offices we also have discussed. So next is a participant details the proposed framework, blockchain, restore office, sub-restore office, web server, registry offices miner, and authorized professional miners. So here next is the stamp requirement and stamp duty payment. In India, ownership update primarily occur through sale, transaction carry out through property registration. So the registry document is evidence of the property sale and help to hold the land record. So the proposed e-stamp requirement system aims to digitize the purchase of stamp document as an e-document. So organizations that are allowed to sell the e-stamp connect with the blockchain network across the e-stamp sale and procurement system. So in this figure, we have demonstrated the method of e-stamp procurement for stamp duty payment using blockchain technology. First, buyer using an e-stamp calculator. Here, the buyer is a calculator. The buyer calculate the stamp duty and pay the stamp duty through the stock holding E Corporation of India Limited, CJ called a SCIL for the other registered office and agency stamping system. So the validator here, validate the stamp fee and payment and produce the e-stamp, and the buyer obtain the e-stamp certification. And here buyer download the collection of e-stamp certificate. Then we have after obtaining the proof of payment of the registry offices, buyers submit the online to the restore offices. Then registry offices verify the all documents submitted, including all property, sale deed, identity proof, map, plan, digital image, property, witnesses. Then the here verify and document checklist checked by the restore office. Then after the validator create a e-registry and a new block in the blockchain is added in the blockchain. The buyer retrieve the final registry document and record. Then the validator validate the transaction and the blockchain is a ledger stored in the e-stamp certificate, and buyer also download the e-certificate to the validator of the and registrar offices. Then after we have changing of stamp paper and paid by the stamp duty to the government, then the change of ownership of verification of the property. So the work in the workflow of request of e-registry generation is in this figure we have illustrated where the registry officers validate the land information by the registrar validator. So in this figure we have shown that a pair of private and public key are used to all the seller buyer. Here all the transactions are signed digitally using private key of the seller buyer to generate the e-registry and send to the registrar office. So both buyer seller use the public key to verify the e-registrar by the validator, and the e-registrar generator has a unique number printed on it. So we have here verification of digital hash of registrar is seller buyer signature, and we have generated the e-registry, and here we have generated the e-registry and e-registry transaction. So e-registry downloaded by the user. So the validator verify the seller by digital signature, during the authentication of newly created e-registry. The transaction is added to the transaction pool after verifying the digital signature, and the validate the e-registry is generated later. So the registry officers we portal now enable the e-registry to the access by the seller buyer. A validator store the collection of these check transaction in a block is also in the added to the blockchain. So there are some example of the blockchain property attributes. So for developing a unique blockchain, the block structure must be defined. So here the different attribute of the land registry transaction are illustrated in this figure. Here first part we have shown that the user details, previous as buyer name, buyer ID, buyer father, buyer address, seller ID, buyer father, and seller, and the property details in the second part: property record number, property location, property area, stamp duty number, the e-stamp date, and current owner, and digital signed by authorities and generated by the hash. So here comparison of the existing based and proposed system, just like we have features of property document verification by authorized domain, existing system single interface for authorized domain. Here using a blockchain multiple interface of authorized domain. Unrelated record can be inserted in the blockchain. Only settling transaction can be stored in blockchain. Less scalable, increased scalability, involvement of paperwork and a broker. No involvement of paperwork and broker. There are some benefit we have provided to the using of the blockchain technology. So next we have also have developed with the consensus mechanism. I have developed consensus mechanism. So novel consensus mechanism we have based on trust value of miner. So the mechanism allow the miner to reward the correct verification of the transaction by increasing the trust value. So also discussed we have earlier with consensus mechanism. So here we have just like in this figure we have shown that transaction verification process for the user proposed framework. So first we have a seller buyer sent to the request to the property transaction detail from the user, and generator block structure to publish it. So we have broadcast block to all the consensus node, and leader here listen and extract the transaction detail and verify the transaction, and we have sent to the broadcast all the node and publish the vote and response. So here the two, so listening and extracting the response from the miner, otherwise false, so we discard the block and publish invalid block to the detail. So the two, so apply the consensus based on trust value and response received from miners. And here checking the majority of consensus. Consensus is achieved not, so discard the block. When the consensus is achieved, so leader block, publish the transition block and hash. Now all are node, add the block in the transition block in the blockchain and update the test value table. So here no block is added, the transition is end. So also selection of leader miner. So the block mining process node to be synchronized to the preserve the blockchain consistency. So the leader election process hold the responsibility of maintaining consistency in the blockchain by synchronizing the mining of newly created block. So the leader election mechanism elect a leader miner among several miner for mining process for each block. So the based on the test value of consensus algorithm, so we have using a round robin method, we have found the find of the authorized professional miner. So each test miner get the opportunity of the miner block. So the leader miner mine the new block and broadcast to all the miner for the consensus process. The consensus mechanism use a limited multicasting to minimize the network load and allow the consensus on the significant number of transactions quickly. So the selection of miner is verification newly created block is responsibility of the leader miner and based on the values of the consensus mechanism. So here we have using of the evaluation of consensus mechanism. So the proposed property registry management system has been implemented in the IPFS. So the following step we have used to implement: first we have creating the blockchain, retrieving the content of blockchain and publishing the block. First we have creating the blockchain. So we have used of the some command. We have installed the IPFS in the system. Then we have first command we have used of the IPFS block put name in the block.text. We have earlier we have defined the structure of block. Then we have generated the hash of the block. So here retrieving the content from the blockchain. So we have put the value of command line IPFS block get and put the here the hash and retrieve the value of the blockchain buyer, seller, buyer name and property details. So we have retrieved the block from the blockchain, and they are publishing the blockchain. So first we have I have entered the choice new land restriction and land transition from change of the ownership. So we have change of the ownership. That's enter the seller, father name, property details, all are things we have using of the command line, using of the IPFS. So we have here, we have shown that the verification of block sent by the leader miner by the consensus node. So we here send the retrieving transaction detail received by the leader, and some here the peer ID of the network of the seller buyer, and we hear of the right of the all things of property user details, just like buyer name Raj, by father Rakesh, address and property details, all the thing. So in this verification is started. So verification then complete. So number of block is traversed for the verification 70. In this blockchain, total number of 17 block. So we have shown that number of block traversed for verification 17, and also publishing the response value and key for the new hash generated. So waiting for the final consensus result for the achieving of the votes from through the, all the nodes to the leader. So we here receiving the response from the all other nodes. So consensus is started. So we have the peer ID of consensus miners and peer ID of consensus miners all other. So the test value of this miner is 85. So final consensus result is achieved. So the block has proved to be valid. So started adding a block into the leader blockchain, and the current owner is the property is a Raj. So last has is this block, and publishing the node all the blockchain. So here we have also comparison of the some existing traditional benchmark consensus algorithm. So here we have shown that the comparison of proof of work, proof of stake, and delegated proof of stake, and trusted with proposed consensus algorithm. So less energy efficient, not required. Advanced hardware, centralized and not is decentralized. Double spending problem is not possible. Scalable and security based on the trust value of miners. So this is a consensus algorithm, and then all our things we have stored. So in the next final step, I have developing the e-registry framework, and consensus and block is added to the blockchain. So it can be seen that the load of blockchain will steadily increase. So due to increase in transaction, so further non-transfer data also need to be stored. So storing the huge data in blockchain and performing the efficient search operation, so require efficient search algorithm. So to achieve the efficient searching algorithm, we have also using of storing of the data is needed, and here there is a need for efficient searching retrieval storage mechanism. So in a blockchain, the size of block is limited for ensuring the efficiency and efficacy. The amount of data stored in the blockchain should be limited, so reduce the search and access time. So just like in the property transaction mechanism, there are one property transfer of one person to another. So around 50-60 MB of data is generated. So but block size is 8 MB. So there are one transaction of property is required to store around 5 to 6 blocks. So the load is increased steadily. So the transition of searching of document and record is very tough and tedious task. So these are non-transitional data we store in the sidechain. The sidechain concept we have about the data of over of blockchain, and size is increases. So we have provided the scalable of searching to the using of any current blockchain. So here sidechain was initially expanded blockchain-based technology that for archiving data and securely exchange sensitive information between the main chain. Main chain here is called as a blockchain. A sidechain is a blockchain that run parallel to the main chain. It extend here we have shown that the basic structure of the architecture proposed by the main chain and the side chain. So main chain is also called as a blockchain. So here block 1, 2, and n. So transaction 1 to 5, 10, and 28. So here transaction 24 is data is executed in the one static block. So here the side chain, one block is attached to the one block, 2 is a 2, and 3 is a 3. So here only settling transaction means just like only these values, there are KBs of form stored in the main chain. So they are scalable and searching of record in the easily. So here thousands of block is reduced to the only 50 to 60 block. So here we have non-transitional data just like block of hash, here hash of block, has a property record number, has a registry document, images of seller, buyer, property in PDF, and other data. So we have these type of data is called as non-transactional data. And settling transaction means just like lightweight data, only searching of information. We have just like using of the hash, we have search of the block. So we have provide the scalable, efficient blockchain to the using of the sidechain technology. So here are some document fetching registry documents summary. So we have through the using of the hash file of summary file, just like using of block hash and put in the command line of the IPFS, then retrieve the all the detail of the existing owner. We are searching algorithm, just like you have a GUI, we have using of the summary file using Google API implementation of the proposed algorithms. So we have developed the web portal. We also here put the seller ID and submit, then record fetch from the blockchain, and buyer ID put submit. Anyone can be put here property record number, buyer ID, seller ID. They are unique IDs. So anyone can submit and fetch the record of the blockchain through the land registry record through the blockchain. So with the consensus of future. So here a future direction. We have consensus. The optimum block size can be first derived, and later can application could be built to enhance the processing of capability of further. So the consensus mechanism need to be modified based on the need to be application being implemented in the healthcare supply chain and all other things. We have these types of things, and these algorithms we have also can be implemented employed by the healthcare supply chain and all other education sector and all other e-governance can be further future direction of the consensus mechanism. There are some references we have using of the creating the PPT. Thank you.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, please ask. Research scholars are encouraged. Please ask your queries.
Thank you, Amrendra sir, for your knowledgeable session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I think there is no question. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Amrendra, for sparing time from your busy schedule and enlightening us with your knowledge. I must say we learned about distributed ledger technology. You explained so nicely about blockchain platforms, blockchain-based property transaction mechanism. I think definitely the participants will be benefited with this knowledge. Thank you once again. Now I request request all the members to please turn on your cameras so that we can have a nice click. Yes, please switch on your cameras. Just a minute. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow we will meet again at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, Dr. Naveen.